Shit. I gotta debut some headwear, gentlemen. Welcome to the Three Wanks FPL podcast. I will be your host, Luke, today. As always, joined by FPL Mac and FPL Vibes FC. I'm donning this beautiful headwear of shame. Horrible week. Don't feel good about it at all. And not only that, but you two are absolutely flying. So excellent work. I've decided I'm switching my mentality, and we're just going to be happy for the co-hosts of the pod for just absolutely crushing it. So tell us where you guys are at while I refit this hat on my head.
I love that you press play and then realized you didn't have it on. That was great. That's what happens when you've only had to wear it one time.
What do you mean? This was part of the script? Yeah, this is
the cold open of oh shit is a nice little moment right there.
Yeah, that's staying in. There we go.
Well, considering we're live, I don't think there's much of an option. Yeah, but I don't believe that you've changed your mindset. I love that you're saying that. That's the second or third time I think we've heard that in the last 24 hours. And I think three times that we get some even tall buildings. So I don't know.
God, a tall building would hit right now.
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling pretty solid. We turned it around this week. Unfortunately, just came off the United Everton game, and that was dog shit. But other than that, we're feeling pretty good.
Nice. And Mac, you finally turned the tides of your season. It feels like sub-million for the first time. We're obviously, I mean, most of the season you were hanging at that like 2 or 3 mark, I feel like, and just have quietly chugged along. And then this week was a nice kablooey back into the stratosphere.
Yeah, man, it's been good. I have entered the top mill for the first time this season, so not too bad. Finalized at 942K this year. God, no, not this year. This week. Game week rank of 800K with 52 points. So not bad. I am a little bit trepidatious though, because if you rise quick, you can fall quick is like what I'm thinking. Because 2 weeks ago I was 2.3 mil. 3 weeks ago I was 3.6 mil. So a couple nice weeks in a row that I've changed up to top mil, but I'm like, all right, I gotta be smart about it. Keep it now.
Yo, shout out to the comments that we're getting. FPL Hippie. Thanks for logging in, checking us out.
Yeah, I think it's fair also to comment on that kind of like those big jumps, because this week was obviously an anomaly. You have 3 goals coming in from Eze, and so it was kind of a game of, do you have Eze, do you not? This is the team of the week that we were rocking with. Not a lot of huge names. You have Munoz, who is a pretty highly owned one, and then Eze as well. But Sharp, in all honesty, you're in a small minority of folks who actually have him. So that's just massive ups for FPL Vibes FC. A little Harvey Barnes action as well, but
maybe the thing that I hate to see the most is Rodgers coming back in there. Is Aston Villa? Do we need to be worried about Aston Villa assets again? Mac, I really want to know how Mac feels on this, given his history with him.
Which one? Because I don't like most of the teams in this lineup.
Villa, just with Rodgers.
Sorry. No, I think Villa have quietly been chugging along for a little while now, and I think periodically they're prone to an occasional slip up. But if you look back at the game weeks after like game weeks 4 or 5, they've been kind of cooking. I'm just waiting for it to get like a little bit consistently better. But I think they need to be back in the conversation, and clearly so do Forest. You know, those guys are Deichball is setting it, I think.
Yeah, interesting times. I mean, I love how you just shifted the attention directly over to Sharp's Liverpool, just like that. That's lovely.
Hey, he didn't do that. He was just noticing that there were 3 players in there from the same team that played well. There's no mention of who they played.
Yeah.
No, this is a supportive week. How could I throw stones at you?
Yeah, exactly.
Both of our teams lost by 3 this weekend.
Well, should we start at the top? I think maybe we jump into Sharp's game week really quick and just talk about what happened here.
Yeah, for sure. So 67 with Waltemade coming in, for Simeone not playing. Overall, with Eze is obviously the big buoy, but even before that, I was really happy with Mente. Had 2 assists, got 3 bonus. Enzo had 3 bonus points in there as well. I mean, unfortunately, should have just captained someone else other than Haaland for the first time all season. So that is what that is. But yeah, no, I was pretty happy. I think the one downside and the thing that I'm probably going to be rethinking over the next couple weeks is my transfer of Gabriel to Saliba. And that's just because Saliba didn't look that good. Like, I expected him to rack up some DEFCONs this week, like really take over that Gabriel spot, and he didn't at all. And so losing that third Arsenal spot to him, who is not inspiring confidence right now, I'm worried could come back to kick me, and losing just that plug and like I can always have Gabriel in there and always be happy about it. So that's what I'm looking at. Overall, though, I got jumped up to 134K this week. It's the final post subs, so pretty happy with that positioning right now. And I just need to keep building the green arrows.
Hell yeah. I think the captaincy one is an interesting one just because all the popular captains seemingly blanked. I don't think you missed out on too many points because Saka blanks. Well, he didn't blank. He was actually the leader in defensive contributions
DEFCONs,
for Arsenal. So it's Bruno all over again. But yeah, that is interesting that their leaders in DEFCONs were Saka, Rice, Zubamendi, Marino, Eze. Like it was a lot more of the mids. Again, just a weird game state thing, I'm sure, but I don't know if that necessarily indicates that guys like Saliba and Timber won't be DEFCONing in Gabriel's absence. So maybe worth monitoring on that. But
I'm willing to argue that that's more a result of the fact that Tottenham had 3 shots the entire game.
Yeah.
It's like a systematic issue.
Couldn't get the ball out. Yeah.
They probably never got it past the midfielders.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's jump into your team then next, Mac.
Yeah. Good week for me as well. Well, good for the head, bad for the heart, right? Like obvious FPL success, but Spurs got fucking whooped in a top 10 embarrassing fashion for the club. I mean, pining after Eze for him to go and put up a hat trick against us. That sucks. But FPL,
I was thinking of you. I was like, I wonder if he's doing okay today.
I actually had to, I said this offline, but I had to go watch Wicked for the second half. Great movie. Wicked second part was awesome. Checked my smartwatch like on the sly during the second half, and it was like 4-1. And I was like, okay, we're done with that. Never mind.
And then you realize who scored all the goals. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I have not been on Twitter since then. So I'll start tweeting again after game week 13.
I watched the highlights back again today, and after the second one, he just like started laughing and covered his mouth like, oh my God, what have I just done? It's the disrespect is honestly a little out of hand. I think it's
he earned it. I mean, it was fine. It was expected to be an ass whooping, to be honest. We haven't been that good this season, but God, not only was it an ass whooping, it was an embarrassing ass whooping. Regardless, onto the stuff of the head. I made like a call that was making me very nervous in getting rid of Gabriel and not bringing in another Arsenal defender because I was just like, this is a derby game. It might be a little bit crazy. Paid off massively. Brought in LaCroix, plus 11 points off of that one. So that was great. Anderson, who I was really thinking about transferring out, unfortunately, just clawed his way out of contention because he's back. And then Senesi, kind of disappointing, but got like a clean sheet. So team is pretty good overall. I think some questions need to be asked of probably the little right triangle I have for the midfields and the forwards, just in Mateta, Mbeumo, and Semenyo. Brought in Mbeumo this week, and they couldn't beat a 10-man Everton, which was just alarming. And then I just think Mateta looks tired, man. I think Palace are starting to really feel the fixtures, and December's busy, and I don't know. It's nice to see that the defense was so solid still, but the attack hasn't been good. But yeah, good week overall, 53 points. Pretty happy.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because of how much we talk about it and how much these words have come out of my mouth. And then this was the week that I was like, cool, let's triple up on Palace. That sounds like a good idea. But to your point, I do think that we're really starting to see the effects of that. And it makes sense. We're getting into the holiday fixtures and rotation is yet to come. But yeah, I mean, what's interesting to me about this team this week is, funny enough, it's actually a relatively low scoring week. But it was just, again, a case of like, there are a few players that if you had them did really well, right? So your Enzos, your Mintes, and then this one's interesting just that you had Anderson and Lacroix, and like both of them did really, really well. Lacroix with an assist, I think Anderson with the same, and some bonus in both of those guys. So yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, solid week. So
and Thiago on the bench, but hey, that's fine if he's gonna keep missing pens.
Yeah, that one sucked. I mean, presumably he gets that other pen and then he gets 3 bonus points. So it's like we're losing out on like 9 points here, maybe. Max upside. Probably bad math. No, that is like probably 9 points because then he doesn't have the -2 from the miss pen as well. So That one hurts. It would have been great to have him get a double pen and then come in for Semenyo who didn't play. But alas, you can't have everything.
Yeah.
I'm
Definitely.
curious. I'll get both of your guys' opinions on this since you guys both have them. I feel like I have avoided Senesi's output for a few weeks now, and maybe I'm jumping ahead to what we want to talk about. I want to know how you guys feel as someone who owns him, because now that I feel like he hasn't put out a little while, I still want him because Bournemouth's fixtures over the next 5 are really good. How are you guys feeling about him as someone who's stuck through the bad times?
Well, in the episode that you missed where Mac and I went full data nerd, it was eye-opening at how consistent he's been and how much he's accounted for a ton of points just coming from DEFCONs. Like, he is not a sexy pick by any means, but he is somebody who's just going to tick along most weeks. Obviously, they don't keep the clean this weekend. He doesn't get DEFCONs, but he does get an assist, so it balances out to an odd 3 points. But I just think for his value, even at his current, I think he's at like 4.9 or 5. Like, even at that price, I think he's just great value. Because this week, when I was shopping for a Gabriel replacement, obviously I went with Richards at 4.5. There's really not that many options at that price. So if you're going cheaper than Senesi, there aren't that many great options short of any of the 4.0s. Anyway, so I think for his price, he's just Mr. Consistent. The problem is that the last few weeks, Bournemouth have looked pretty susceptible defensively. So I think that's the part that's alarming to me, is like looking, yes, they have good fixtures, but they gotta start cleaning a little bit. I think they've just looked a little less threatening. Even in the few games before Semenyo missed, he seemed a little less involved. I don't know. They just haven't looked quite as on top of it. So I wonder if they were overperforming a little bit to start the year. But I still think, even with that being considered, even with potential of not keeping as many cleans, he's just very consistent. And it's hard to find an alternative that's going to be as consistent as he is. But that being said, he's not a shoot for the stars pick. Like, knowing you and knowing what you'd want to be looking for, I don't. He's boring as fuck. So
I think with him, like, how happy would you be in an isolated environment if you had a 4.5 guy who was in contention for top 5 defenders at this point of the season? Right. And if his output regresses to what we expect of a 4.5 defender, he can still be your 5th man on the bench, right? Like, he was so cheap when most of us bought him that I have no real reason to sell him. I would probably consider selling Anderson over Senesi. Or I also have Richards, so 2 other 4.5s.
I think he's still the number 1 DEFCONing defender. And the other thing is, obviously, he gets an assist this week. He's not like just a standard center back that doesn't do much. Like, he does get involved in attack. And along the lines of shooting for the stars, I will say, if he keeps it clean, if he gets the DEFCONs and then maybe some bonus, and then if he happens to get involved in the attack, like, he's on for a huge haul. And the problem of not owning him as well is just that he's so highly owned that you're taking that on every week. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think he's like, you have to own him. I just struggle to see, if you were like trying to build out defense and looking for alternatives, somebody who'd be better around that price.
There might be something to say, like in 17 when their fixtures swing, because the fixtures are really solid until 17. They play Burnley in 17, and then in 18 they start to get a little more challenging through about 20. Maybe you could sell high if his value is still high, try to recoup some money and then bring him back in later. But he, right now, barring some catastrophic difference from Bournemouth, is a season-long hold for me with just how he's been performing. I will say, if Semenyo leaves, that could change the dynamic of the team, so we got to be wary of that, but nothing crazy for now.
Yeah, that shit's interesting.
That is interesting.
The window is going to open back up, and he's just like, there's nothing they can do, right? It's a clause that if someone offers him that amount, they can't.
I mean,
do anything, right?
You could allegedly threaten him, like Morgan Gibbs White, but no, for the most part, there's nothing you can do. If they trigger the release clause and agree on wages, he's gonna go. And I think there's enough big teams.
Yeah, interested. Yeah. So jumping into my team, I made 3 transfers this week. Obviously, they all paid off really well. Brought in Mateta for Voltamade, brought in Richards for Gabriel so that I could afford Raya in for Pope. Really debated on that last one of whether I needed a goalkeeper transfer. The idea was, hey, I have the money to spend and I don't. I think that, just getting a second Arsenal defender. I feel like having one Arsenal defender, not to be like sound weird to you guys or to you, Mac, but I think at this point it's either I feel like you should maybe either go 2 Arsenal defenders or no Arsenal defenders, in the sense of, because a lot of people are with Gabriel going down, are in the camp of having 1 Arsenal defender. It feels like you can either get the upside on betting against them if you don't think they're going to clean sheets, or if you want to do 2 of them to bet on the upside of them keeping the clean sheets. I went the latter route, and that went really well. Raya decided to try his hand at playing midfield and paid dearly for it. So that's always fun. Timber assist, Senesi assist, Richards clean, so that's sick, but doesn't look all that inspiring. Saka is a 10 million center back, and then all the Palace guys didn't do anything. Bumo didn't do anything against 10 men and was injured. And Dye was busy keeping his own player from fighting the other one. Holland doesn't score. Thiago scores a pen, misses a pen. I think it's worth noting with Thiago, like, how many fucking pens can this guy get?
Crazy.
And it honestly, if anything, is starting to make me be like, maybe we're getting to the point. The thing is, Brentford's fixtures long-term are really good, but maybe we're getting to the point of almost a sell high with Thiago, because so many of his returns in the last few weeks have come from pens that it's like, okay, similar to Bruno earlier in the season, it's like, this can't be sustainable, right? But, also, why are you going to sell a player that's scoring? So
I was going to say, I mean, in his next 5, he has Burnley, Leeds, and Wolves.
Yeah,
like you can't get rid of him yet.
And the long-term fixtures are really good as well. Like, Brentford's fixtures for a really long time are really solid. So,
He's also a 6.5 mil starting forward. So if you just think about needing to dead end a spot, and you don't want to go quite as bad, like quite as low as like Guehi, where you're like, okay, I could play him for 2 points in a random game sometime. Like, it's not a bad guy to have. The output has been unreasonable relative to the price recently. That's why we all have him. But he's just kind of like a Senesi, where I'm like, I don't feel urgently. If he regresses, it's expected of his price.
Yeah. I mean, along those lines, that transitions nicely into our boy Danny Welbeck, who scores again. This guy's a machine.
I just can't believe you went through that whole recap like so well. I appreciated your comments on every one of your players, and you didn't even mention Dewsbury Hall. He's been your boy since day one, and you just disrespected him this week.
I think that's the problem with him, though, actually, and like why he is in a way a little bit of a frustrating asset, is because watching him, he is so involved, and like, you watch the game today, you see it, right? He's takes corners, he's essentially playing cam for the team. Like, he's really, really involved, but the returns haven't exactly matched what you're seeing on a week-to-week basis. So it's hard to put him in. It's hard to be like, oh, I'm going to start my 5.0 mid who hasn't done a whole lot over, Bumo, Semenyo, somebody like that. And then, of course, you're not going to have him in for his hauls then as well. So it's tricky. And, knowing United was a good fixture, but also knew that there were other players that I had who had better fixtures, who should have scored, didn't. So it's always fun. But Danny Welbeck just doing the damn thing. It begs the question, why am I spending 8 million on Mateta when this guy's scoring every single week? Who knows? The forward rotation has just been hilarious so far in the last few weeks. I feel like the Voltamade, Mateta, Welbeck, Thiago, and this isn't even just a me thing. I think it feels like a lot of people are kind of on this carousel of going from one to the other, and then the other one scores, and then the other one scores, and the other one scores. So interesting to try to figure out which one that's going to be going forward.
They're just all fighting these little spurts. It's just the margins are lower this year. I've said it a couple times. If a guy's popping off this year, he's actually just getting a goal versus a hat trick in normal years. There's not even 2 premiums to have on a team, so everyone's got just a bajillion mid-priced players. It's a weird year.
Yeah. I think that's worth noting with Thiago as well. Something interesting is that when he scores, and when I've benefited from that, he's not generally hauling. He doesn't get a lot of bonus, I don't think. So it's just he scores and it's like a 6-pointer, which is interesting because oftentimes with a striker, when they do score, that's, just a huge amount of points. But I'll look up his BPS while we're chatting here, but it's just not that high. Anyway. So yeah, that's Brighton and Brentford. I mean, this is a very standard game. I literally, when I look at Brentford, and Brighton actually, I think of this is just going to be like a 1-1, 2-1 game. And I don't mean against each other. I just mean in general. Like I always am just like, okay, that's probably going to be like a 1-1, 2-1 game because both of those teams are just, it's the battle of mid, I feel like.
Yeah, I think they're top of the mid table teams, right? Like they're solid teams. They function well. They're both contributing relative to their value, which is nice. Brighton's particularly just fun to own because they're just going to run at you like an Ange ball without some of the deficiencies. So mid teams, mid expectations, nice performance. I like them.
Yeah. It is worth noting this is the second time in a little while that Minte has hauled, and both times it's been 2 assists. So staying really involved, but hasn't quite had that like. I mean, I think 11 points is a haul as we can expect it this season, but it is just interesting that it's been more on the assist side of things than like scoring. But
I feel like he has that playmaking ability, obviously, but the way that he can create both on his own foot and drop it off or with passes is quite nice. And I think a few weeks ago when I brought Thiago in, my back and forth was between him or Welbeck because they were 0.3 different at that time. Welbeck was slightly more expensive, and it was like, all right, which one of these guys is going to be the right one to have? I went Thiago simply because I had Minte back there, so I had coverage on both teams, and I think Minte still offers you that if you feel confident in your other forward positions.
Yeah. I think a good alternative or like where a lot of people may be, and it's interesting, I think Brighton kind of mimics it, right? You have Mateta and Sarr, and then you have Minte and Welbeck that are kind of, cheaper versions of those players, it feels like. On the fixture ticker, let's see, over the next 5, Brighton are higher than Palace. Brighton have Forest, Villa, West Ham, Liverpool, and Sunderland. Palace have United, Burnley, Fulham, City, and Leeds. So both have some pretty decent fixtures. Both have one specifically really hard one in 16. I think this Palace one having gone by. Go ahead.
That's pretty debatable. I think Brighton's 16 is actually probably pretty nice for him.
Damn, you really want to? All right, hey, yeah, Liverpool fucking suck. We'll get there. Good point. But yeah, I mean, I think it presents an alternative for anybody who is invested in Palace assets. It's interesting, because they still have good fixtures to come, but this felt like one of those bankers where it was like, they're going to do really well. They kept it clean, but it looks like maybe they shouldn't have. Watching it did feel like a pretty back and forth game in general. And it didn't feel like Palace dominated this at all, but a couple of really nice plays from some really good players that separated this one. Yeah, I don't know. This might just be kind of what I feel like we've been annoyingly predicting this for so long, but it may just be a good inkling of that to come, or it's just a blip. Yeah.
I agree. I think they're starting to get tired. A couple of the players starting to go down injured, right? Sarr's leaving for AFCON soon. Richards potentially went down with a hamstring injury, although I haven't heard more about that. And the fixtures kind of turn. So, 13's United, but then 14's Burnley. Awesome. Fulham and 15. Sarr leaves for 16 when they have City, and then they have Leeds, Spurs, Fulham again, Newcastle, Villa, right. Sunderland, Chelsea. So I think that the stock's cooling on the Palace assets is probably the right feeling to have, and that I think that sooner rather than later, we're probably going to want to hop off the train in some capacity.
I think 15 or 16 is a good exit point. Obviously, they have City in 16. And for me personally, my tentative plan was to go from Mateta back to Voltemade in 15 when they play Burnley, and then just have kind of a nice run for a little while. As far as Sarr replacements, it's probably a different bag, but obviously you're going to have to get rid of him before AFCON as well. It is interesting that not all players are going to leave at the same time for that. It's worth noting. Some of them may stick around for a game or two. Some of them may go for some friendlies before the tournament. It'll be kind of unclear. There was even some indication from somebody that was saying that their players might actually leave a little early. So it's just going to be an annoying time, worth looking at all that stuff and monitoring who's going to be in and out.
AFCON's weird too, because we build it up so much, and then sometimes like the team goes and has a stinker and they're gone for a week. And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, we've been eyeing this up for 16 weeks only for nothing to happen.
Right. But we have 5 transfers, so we're at the point where might as well do whatever the fuck you want with your team, because why not?
Yeah.
And it actually, again, it behooves us to get rid of them now, because rolling into 16 with any transfers is just a waste. But since Sharp so badly wanted to talk about his shitty ass team, we can do that. I don't know. Take us away, Sharpenator.
I mean, I don't know. Mac and I were watching this game together, and I feel like he had some pretty solid points as to what he was seeing and what was going on out there for sure. But I mean, this is tough to look at, because holy shit, we just don't want to put the ball in the net, do we? I mean, you put
This
Liverpool.
has been the story, though. Like, there's so
know.
many games that I can point to where it's been this of like, they rack up like 2+ XG, but it's just these little like little chances. They're just not getting the home run ball.
Which is fair, because I think in the beginning of that game, I mean, you can see it in the first 20 or so minutes there. But I mean, we came out with high energy. We were pushing, we were pressing, we were on their side of the pitch for a lot of it. They packed the box and played that well and kept us out. And I'm convinced if Liverpool and United played, well, United would beat us since they already have. But 0-0 feels like a real option. And I don't know if either team would need to play a goalie. It's tough to watch. It's mostly just frustrating, and it would be nice if we could actually put it together. And our defense is ass anyway. So
and that's what I was just going to say. It does just feel like this is, Dyche clearly had prepared for this game in the right way of saying, okay, we're going to play counterattacking ball. And truthfully, since game 1 this season, that's what's been Liverpool's Achilles heels. They just can't. They're not good at stopping transitions. So ultimately, it's leading to big chances for teams like this.
I mean, when you look at how we play, one, we tried to make Soboslai play like Trent this weekend. So he was playing right back, but he was playing mid basically the entire time, and Gravenberch would fall back. It's the same thing he did last year, which is fine. But in reality, you have 2 guys that want to play defense on this entire team. Van Dijk will still play it, and Gravenberch will play it. We may as well not have anyone else, and rarely do we have anyone else behind midfield when we're attacking. And I think that's a big part of the problem, is you try to put 9 guys in there to try to score. You're just condensing the space and everything around it. And we got to just give Salah the ball at some point. You got to stop trying to give it to Isak or whoever you want in the center and just let Salah go play ball. Because at this point, nothing else is working. So let's revert back to last year. That at least worked.
Yeah, I'm looking at the subs, some interesting tactical changes from Slot, bringing in the 55th Ekitike for Konate, and just trying to be like, all right, let's go full attack. And obviously that backfired pretty hard, pretty quick. Yeah, rough time in Champions Land.
Yeah, it was a strange game, I will say. I was watching it with Sharp, and I agree with Sharp. I think you just got to give Salah the ball. Like, they have this asset who functionally does not play defense in this system and this year where they're just getting run over in the midfield. And so they're just continuously outnumbered when the goalie boots it long, which is on the rise this year, getting beaten in the midfield and then just conceding because Salah hangs high and Isak likes to hang high, and there's just not enough like work around the whole team. It's just not working. And I think that I just bring all that up to say, like, we were talking offline prior to this week, like everybody and their mom was like, Van Dijk is the best Gabriel replacement this week. And we're looking at the eye test and we're all like, he's not, he's just not. It's, 6 mil, the team's just not functioning. Anybody who watches them once can see that. And I just feel so validated that we were all sort of brave enough there, because I almost got convinced for a little while to like just say like, no, it's not clicking.
I mean, ultimately, I think it was Sharp who convinced me, because he looked at it's easy to look at the fixture ticker and see green and be like, all right, sick. But he was like, we're going to concede in that game, and that game for sure. So why would you have that guy in it? Yeah. I'm glad that we didn't do it, because if this had been the week before Gabriel was injured, there's no way anybody would have been going for Van Dijk. So it definitely paid off for us of other people having gone there and getting burned and not us. But talk about getting burned. How about that's me not having Eze, just nasty. And I watched back the highlights today. So this is a completely dominant performance by Arsenal, which is why I'm even that much more frustrated as a double defense owner, and Sharp's in the same boat of them having conceded, because they really shouldn't have, and just score from half. Why not? But I was really trying to watch it back in the sense of Eze. I think it's almost a no-brainer to get somebody like that who has the potential to score 3 goals, and who's that price in a top-tier team. But I was also trying to watch it and be like, was this just kind of a like anomaly game? And I don't think it is, but do you guys have any different thoughts on that? Like, coming out of anytime somebody scores a hat trick, you've got to be thinking like, okay, do I need that guy in my team right now? Definitely for you and I, Mac, as Saka owners, it's kind of like, well, shit, why do I have the 10 million version of this? Yeah, but what do you guys think? Is this like a coming out party, or is this kind of a blip, or where are we at on this?
I think that you hit it on the head with your first statement. I think and what Max said earlier already, is that there's just not a lot of premier priced guys that we need to have. You need Haaland.
That's it.
Yeah, I mean, there's no one after that. So why not get the guys that do have this capability of popping off at cheaper price points, where maybe you're losing 4-2 some weeks to Saka in terms of points, but then I get to have, I mean, this is ridiculous, right? Like, I'm never going to get another 20 out of Eze, but like, I'm very happy. This is why I went with him in the first place, was to save money and have someone that could be a playmaker in that position. So to me, it makes a lot of sense. I think it's kind of how I've built my team overall, is trying to find those mid-price guys that are going to do this, like hero or zero type ball. But the problem is, when you look at Arsenal, we can say the fixture started changing, but they're still 5th overall in the fixture ticker for easiest games overall. Chelsea, Brentford, Villa, Wolves, Everton, like none of those scare me. So like, if you're looking to bring someone in for that, I don't think he has to be a priority, but I think he's certainly worth watching. And I think it's going to be a continued output. I don't think this is like a one-time thing.
And it's just also like, if you have a player who's on a team that is likely going to win the league, or is at least going to be top 3, fixtures kind of, I don't want to say they shouldn't matter, but if a team is performing at that level, like, it's easy to have somebody be a part of that. I think my overall hesitation with Arsenal attack in general is just that they like to sit on leads. And even in a game like this that they completely dominated, they still don't get past 2 XG. And not that XG is everything, but again, just this kind of graph is very common for them of showing how they attack, which is very slow and methodically. And so is it sustainable? I don't know. Because, you have Eze has scored 1 other goal this season. He's getting more minutes now. He's potentially playing a little bit more centrally. We'll see if that changes when a player like Odegaard comes back. Who knows? But I don't know. I think it's tough with Arsenal. It's tough to predict who's going to play all the minutes, who's going to score any of those goals, because they come in so many different ways. Set pieces, cleanups. Sometimes it's just Saka coming down the wing. Sometimes it's the striker cleaning something up. Anyway, sorry, Mac. What do you think about this?
No, I think you guys were hitting the nail on the head. I don't think that someone's going to consistently like pop off for Arsenal, right? Like, it could just, as you guys have so eloquently stated, it could be anybody. Why invest the money into the expensive guy if it's just as likely that somebody else will have a good game? That being said, I'm a little worried about Eze, only because Odegaard's coming back theoretically for the Bayern Munich game this week. So who knows what that'll do to his starting position. But I think that there's still like a Rice that you could get. Arsenal are unquestionably the best team right now this year. And so you should probably have 3 of them in some combination, right? And it's just like a pick your poison. As Luke said, you should go heavy on the defense or not. But then I don't think that Saka is justifying his 3 more mil price, and Arsenal are still good. Those are my conclusions, right? If they're going to get 1 goal, you're just kind of rolling the dice on, do you have the right guy? And if you're rolling the dice, roll it on a cheaper guy who's just as likely to get it.
Right. Yeah. At least I have definitely bit the bullet on the expensive Arsenal picks at one point or another this season with Saka, with Gyökeres, but haven't gone down the route of the cheaper ones, and ironically, those ones have done better. So, yeah. Okay, Newcastle and City. I think this is another one just to touch on. Did not expect this. Thought this was just going to be a absolutely defensive game. Probably Holland scores one, City wrap it up, sit on the lead, call it. No, not at all. Yeah, it didn't lend any more confidence for me as a Newcastle defensive owner that they're going to be good. And Sharp had a great zinger before the week when we were talking about this, and like, maybe Newcastle will figure it out this week. And he was like, yeah, really good get right game against City. And it turns out that's exactly right. So, I don't like it. I don't really care if Holland scores or not anymore because he's so highly owned that it doesn't really matter. So that is what it is. As far as trying to find a City asset that's any good outside of him, feels the same. How many minutes did O'Reilly get? Do you guys know?
I think he played the whole game.
Yeah, so I think he's a genuine option now on a good defense. Harvey Barnes scores twice. I think that's worth noting, and that's cool. But again, how far away is Gordon? Is he going to take that spot back? This is kind of what Connor told us on the Newcastle pod, is that, hey, when he comes in, he's not going to do a whole lot else but score goals. So if he's coming in to sub, you should get him. And honestly, I should have thought about that before this. But
so I think I agree with everything you just said. I have a couple more points that I think want to lend some color to the story, because I was watching this game live, and I don't know, I had some thoughts about it. So Connor said that Newcastle's much better at home. This was at home for Newcastle. So he said that they tend to take it to teams more that way, and they did, right? Connor also said that they are more reliant than he expected on their outside back defensive players, both of which came back this week. So all of a sudden it looked like the offense was flowing a little bit more. And then obviously Harvey Barnes just is a goal scorer. So I think that the takeaways, as you said, that City still like kind of unsure if O'Reilly's going to start, although he looks like a pretty decent pick if he's going to continuously
I think
start.
He looks pretty nailed, yeah.
Eight Nori just came back, who will theoretically replace him, but he's going to go represent Algeria at AFCON in a couple weeks as well. So that might actually lock down the spot for O'Reilly. So I think that's one conclusion. But I think from a Newcastle perspective, I think they're actually probably rising in my mind. If their functional players are coming back, and their fixtures turn pretty well in 15. So in 13 they play Everton, 14 they play Spurs, but then it's Burnley, Sunderland, Chelsea United, Burnley again, Crystal Palace, Leeds, Wolves through 22. So
you said 15? I would think it'd be 14 against Spurs.
Yeah, it's not an inaccurate call. So maybe even sooner than expected. I don't know. I think that it's clicking together for them, and I think getting on them early is sort of the conclusion. If they were able to take it to City, they might finally be able to take it to some of these teams they were supposed to be beating, and I think there's some upside there. So if we're talking about hopping off of like the Palace train, that might be an easy 1-to-1.
Yeah, I think it's worth noting, though, I feel like you're talking about attacking assets, though, because as someone who, and Sharp can relate because we invested around the same time, invested in their defensive assets, ever since I bought them, I just had the unlucky touch, because it feels like they not only have they conceded, but they've looked like they were going to concede. You know what I mean? It's not like they've looked like a stout defense that just, let a leaky one in. It's for whatever reason, they haven't been as sound as they were early in the year. You'd like to think that's going to turn, but when? So,
well, I think that was exactly it, right? The outside backs were out, so you had to play 36-year-old Kieran Trippier at right back and 33-year-old Dan Burn at left back, neither of which who are mobile, so they can't create offensive pressure. They're receiving more defensive pressure. Like I would fully expect that their output would regress in the period that you had them, because you guys both bought them in a period of heavy injuries, but I would also expect that they would rise now.
Yeah. I think, Mac, I need you here. I need you to hear everything you just said, because the way that they have played makes me want to punt them to the moon. I've been so tired of Burn and Pope. And the only reason I didn't transfer Pope out this week was because I had so many other possible issues between injuries and everything. but now it's not even like they're like, yeah, their fixtures are good. Don't get me wrong, but they've been good. So that was playing through my head and like why I was getting so annoyed with them. But I do think and I hope that they do actually start getting the outputs that we would expect from them, because it's not like they play anyone that's super attacking over the next insert game week number. I mean, you have Chelsea is probably the best attacking threat that they play within the next 7 or 8. So it gets me excited that hopefully they will do this. The thing that I think has been eating at me is, did I invest in the wrong 3 from them? Because I do have 3, right? I have Burn, I have Pope, and I have Voltamade. And I just don't know. I don't feel like Burn was the right choice at this point. I want to get out of him. I want to get into a mid because they get me excited. I'm just going back and forth, but they're not priorities to get out.
Burns been playing left back. He's a center back, so he's not been getting those defcons because their left and right backs rarely get defcons, and he's been playing out of position. So he might rise.
I mean, it is worth noting though that Lewis Hall started this one, which in theory should be the positive, but then he went down with an injury. So I don't know if they're necessarily getting the help back. Like, I hear what you're saying of why they're not doing well, and I think that's, you know, I'm not in disagreement. I'm just not sure if it's going to get better. It seems like they've been having a lot of injury problems at the back in general recently. Pope with a concussion that we all forgot about last week, and then Botman got his head cut a few weeks ago, and now Hall goes down, Burn gets the red card. So there's been a lot of inconsistency. So maybe they come back, they get the band back together, and things are fine. But yeah, did Livramento play?
I think that's the word. Livramento did play. I think that's the word for it. I think there's been too much inconsistency, which hasn't allowed them to groove in any part of the field.
Right.
I think that those guys, you know, an odd injury here or there is not season ending, as evidenced by Arsenal, who have had Gabriel get injured, but they have enough guys. It's when you get 3 guys injured in the back line that you get in trouble. And they did have 3 guys injured. Now, if they're down to 1, I think it'll be okay. I'm not as heavily invested into you guys, so it's very low consequence for me to be wrong on this. Because if I'm wrong, I just don't bring them in. So I think it is a bummer that you guys do have them in such quantities. I don't disagree that you guys should feel slightly jaded, but I think it's going to turn now, because you would want Pope versus Burnley in almost any context, right? And then Sunderland is losing like 9 players to AFCON in 16, so they could be way down. So at the very least, if you hold them for like a 4-week stretch, get your AFCON transfers, it could be okay.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be tough if we go into this Everton fixture and they don't keep it clean to be like, no, but now is when it's going to turn. No, here we go. It's coming around the like the patience is just tough. But
I said I was going to get them in 15. Everton and Spurs could be tricky.
I don't think Luke even gets to complain anymore. He has a new goalie, so he shouldn't be worried about it.
True.
I simply want to feel the burn, and I haven't felt it.
Yeah, I will say, I mean, this is playing on my mind in the sense of one easy transfer I could make this week would be Chow to O'Reilly. Just get a City defender ahead of Leeds and their nice run of fixtures. Doesn't feel super priority. I also have Ndai, who plays Newcastle this week, which, again, is Newcastle good or bad defensively? Who's to say? And then obviously goes off to AFCON sometime soon. So I was also chatting with Sharp before we came on that I have 3 AFCON mids. Very exciting stuff. Probably should get on that in some respect. But yeah, anyway, point being, hard to keep the faith, but maybe I hear you on it. It might be worth it, Mac.
I think that the O'Reilly shout isn't a bad one. You know, if we think that Leeds is an easier fixture, and the way at least I'm envisioning this next couple of weeks is to play super aggressively because we get those 5 transfers in AFCON. So I'm almost thinking that you could like do it on a 1-player basis free hit, and if you have concerns about them for the next 2 and you want to get Chow back for Burnley, that could be fine or something like that.
Yeah. Do we want to? You know what? Screw it. Yeah, I'm just going to talk transfers on my team because now I'm thinking about it. Sharing screen, classic. Sharp, you want to do it?
Yeah, don't you worry. Let me show you how it's done.
Okay, let's see if you guys can see this. All right, I'll zoom in a little bit. So, okay, the player that I probably want to get rid of the most is Ndai, just because not only is he going to AFCON, but also a tough fixture this week. So let's say I get rid of him. Problem is, because I used that last transfer to get Raya over Pope, I only have one. So like if I wanted to go Declan Rice, for example, I can't, or I can for a hit. I would just have to downgrade Saka. So I feel like the easy option is just to go Minte. He's cheaper. He's been doing well. They have relatively solid fixtures for a little while now. He's not going to AFCON, I don't think. So that's an easy one. I don't think I would want to invest in a Chelsea guy just because their fixtures are finally going to turn for the worse. I could also take a hit. Maybe, it worked for one of us. Maybe it'll work for me. But otherwise, like in general, I think this team looks all right going into this week. If I were to go to what my lineup might look like, I either, leave it like this and or sub in like a Chow against Everton for Richards. I think that could be either one of those guys. Or I try to beef up the defense and maybe do 4 at the back. I don't know. There are options, but it feels like I'm just one player short of a very solid team. I either have to play Richards and Chow, or one of Richards and Chow and whoever and die against Newcastle. So it may be a good time to get him out just in general.
I think you have a solid team. How do you feel about Bumo right there?
Not fantastic, but fine. I don't feel like, obviously with AFCON, it'd be nice to get rid of him, but I don't. If I'm picking between these two, I would be more comfortable starting Bumo than I would Ndai this week. That being said, I hear your point in the sense of Bumo is more expensive, so maybe it affords me more options.
I guess not even from like a transfer perspective. Like maybe you do want to do that right now, but his 2 fixtures after Palace look real nice.
True.
So I wouldn't say that.
True,
I'm just your feeling on starting him this week, and like, do you have confidence in him actually returning?
Honestly, in general, yeah, I do. But I think Mac pointed it out aptly at the beginning of the pod. Just like, you really never know what's going to happen with United. I feel like if they are going to score, I'm somewhat confident now, at least more than I was earlier in the season, that Mbumo is going to be involved, and so I'm comfortable in that sense. But boy, you would think against a 10-man Everton, they wouldn't have trouble scoring, and they sure did. It's worth noting. I mean, like they were loading up on chances. I don't think it was short of that per se, but just couldn't put anything in the back of the net is kind of crazy.
There was a lot of low quality chances. I felt like I was really disappointed by that performance, to be honest. There's no real reason why you shouldn't whoop them if you want to be a serious team with a 13-minute red card. That was just embarrassing.
Also, I know we touched on it like over text, but one of the wildest red cards I've ever seen. I've never seen somebody get red carded for popping their own player in the face. Unbelievable.
That was
crazy. Didn't even know that was a thing. That's crazy. Love it though.
Watching the replay, and I didn't even see the interaction happen at the first time because I was like looking for an off-ball foul.
Yeah.
No, I just walked up and smacked his own teammate.
Insane. Absolutely insane.
That dude's been watching Draymond Green highlights. That's what
dude, yeah, that's some MMA shit that he brought. That's so funny. So I mean, is it what I guess out of those two options or a third door that maybe I'm not thinking of, do you guys like the Ndai sell or like a Chow sell more?
I like the Ndai sell.
Or even a Richard sell if we think that Palace are just done. I know I got him last
injured.
week, but yeah, if he's injured, true.
Yeah, with what I know right now, I would get rid of Ndai because you have them, then you have Bournemouth, but then Arsenal, Chelsea are in the next 5 as well. Like, it just gets a little too complicated for him.
Is it just easy Minte?
I mean, I love Minte, so I like that. How much money would that give you? That would give you 6.9.
It would leave me 0.9, I think, in the bank.
No, yeah, sure. I meant like overall before you, yeah.
Yeah, 0.8 in the bank after that. That's probably where I'm at then. This feels like another week. I was thinking this when I was planning it out last week, where kind of like, what was it, 2 weeks ago, where probably not a lot of moves are going to be made. It just feels like there's not a whole lot to attack. You have the City versus Leeds fixture, but otherwise it's a lot of good teams playing good teams and bad teams playing bad teams. So, any transfer plans you guys want to walk through?
Yeah, I think Mac has some more in-depth ones. Maybe I just hop in real fast. And to be honest, Mac actually has basically given me my transfer this week. It's awesome. So
you're welcome.
It's nice. All right, hold on.
Yeah.
Let's see it. Let's see it. Moment of truth. Yeah.
For a little bit of context,
Shit Talker FC.
Yeah, Sharp's been chirping and has never
We're fine. We're
had
fine.
access to the controls. So we're all eagerly awaiting.
I've got the controls.
TikTok, sweetheart. There we go.
Hey.
Nice.
Well, I don't know why no one pointed out our fine sponsor in the upper corner there. Thank you, StreamYard, for continuing to support us in this podcast endeavor. All right. So this is what we're racking this week. Honestly, feel good about my team. I think I'm going to have more benching headaches than anything. But what I don't feel good about is Enzo and pretty much all of Chelsea and the fixtures that they have coming up. So my goal is to get him out. I actually have a ton of money in the bank to play with, theoretically.
Does that say 1.3 or 1.5?
1.
For some reason, it looks like you're showing this off an Atari, but yeah, okay.
I'm sorry. It's a different size
zoom
screen
in a
that I
little bit,
think I'm
maybe?
sharing. Maybe. How's
Yeah,
this
that's a
look?
little better.
Little
That's a
better.
little better.
We've entered the Stone Age.
Well, what are you guys thinking with Semenyo?
Upped myself to multiple screens this week. There's a lot to deal with. All right.
It's like trying to teach my mom how to use tech. I get it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't feel the need to get rid of him or anything like that. Like, even if he doesn't play this week, I have enough depth on this team. Like, if someone were to come off the bench, I'm seriously not worried. So I'm not going to worry about getting him out right now. I think he's probably going to be someone I get out with the AFCON transfers once they come.
Okay.
He's got Burnley in 17. If he's still seriously regressing, I might move it up as a priority, but I kind of agree with Sharp. For lack of a consistent amount of alternatives, I just don't feel the need to. Oh, wait, he doesn't have Burnley. He's going to AFCON, right?
No, he's not.
Yeah, I don't think they qualified. So yeah, he'll be around. So sorry, you were saying you wanted to get rid of Enzo?
So Enzo, okay. Now I'm all sorts of thrown off. Look what you people have done to me. All right, we're getting Enzo out, and I'll zoom back in when I need to. But now I feel like Mac. That's terrible.
MGW, interesting.
He insults me and thanks me for his move in the same sentence. What a guy!
I got to keep it balanced, as all things should be. But yeah, no, Mac made this call out. Honestly, he's been, 8-8. You simply can't argue with that. And then he has Brighton, Wolves, and Everton coming up. I mean, it almost makes too much sense.
Yeah, we glossed over the Forest stuff when we were discussing the Liverpool game.
Just zoom out. I don't know what you're doing here.
Well, now you can't see. All right.
Yeah, we glossed in the over the Forest stuff when we were discussing the Arsenal game. But I think that if you look back, like it seems like Dyche is setting in fairly well, and I don't know how much of it is just down to like the new manager bounce, which is like a real thing sometimes.
Right.
But Forest have good players. That's why I had a bunch of them in the beginning of the season, and it feels like they're finally performing to that level at least a little bit.
Yeah.
Could be worth a punt, and I really don't hate the Morgan Gibbs White one, Sharp, especially with some decent fixtures going in.
I guess my only worry, new manager, different situation, but last season when they were at the top of their game, I don't remember Gibbs White being like a baller. Not in terms of actual play, but in terms of FPL totals. So I just wonder how central he will be to the attack. But yeah, I like this is definitely a transfer that I don't feel like anybody's talking about that would be a really nice differential. I mean, what's his ownership? Like fucking 3%? It's got to be something crazy small.
I think that this would be like a risky transfer, but just for lack of a bunch of other guys, like what's the harm? No,
100%.
You've got Wolves. I like it. I don't know. I'm interested in seeing it. It's not an invalid call out though that he wasn't like the guy last year. I would have to look back to see how Nuno was setting up versus how Dyche is currently setting up. But if it's different enough, it could be a move.
I think 8 million is also just a weird amount to have. There's not, to the point of the lack of options, there's not a whole lot of guys that are putting their hand up. Only one that we touched on earlier that scored that maybe is worth something would be a Harvey Barnes. Or no, are you already tripled up? Yeah.
I am already tripled up.
So
That's
you're
my
tripled
other
up
problem.
on Newcastle and Arsenal, so you can't get any of them. Yeah. You already have Minte, you already have Bumo, you already have Semenyo. Yeah. But this is also like, this is the time to do then what Mac is saying and taking a punt on somebody who's a little more of a differential, just because you have the coverage among all the highly owned players and the players who are scoring, honestly. Only other option, maybe Rodgers. I don't know if too soon to go back to Villa and try to expect anything from them, but they have some decent fixtures coming up. It's a little bit of a mixed bag, actually. Wolves, Brighton, Arsenal, West Ham, United. So worth a shot. But you have a great midfield. Like you have 4 guys who can start regardless of what you do with Enzo every week.
Right. No, 100%. So I think what's going to happen, I do think, I mean, unless something crazy happens to one of these guys and I got to fix an injury situation, I do think I'm going to do that, take MGW in, and then I'm going to have a benching headache because I'm not sure who I'm going to want to put on the bench over him at this point. That's why I was kind of asking about Bumo right now.
This is also, you're not going to listen to me, but this is also, if you're going to bring somebody in that you're going to have a benching headache about, right? You're sitting there being like, I might not actually even play them this week. It may be worth rolling. The reason I say this, hear me out on this. Enzo's 6.7, right? So if you roll, you go to 2 free transfers, you could bring him down to, I don't know, my favorite guy, Kieran Dewsbury Hall. And then you can use that money that you have there to then go buy somebody a little bit more pricey in a different spot, like a forward or a defender or something like that you could upgrade to.
I already have 1.3 in the bank. Like I'm not trying to save money. Like I don't think I guess my point is, like, I hear what you're saying, but I don't think taking Enzo down that far would do anything for me. Like I don't think that unlocks something that I can't get to right now.
That's true.
And that's part of why I feel okay playing aggressive, is because I can get back up to most things or most people that I would want to from this position with that money in the bank.
Yeah. I think MGW is a good call then. Rip it. Rip it and rip it.
Shout out, Mac.
All right, Macklin. Let's see it, buddy.
Yeah. All right. I'll just start with a little bit of a recap, I suppose, where I'm currently at. So, who knows where this is? Not I. All right. That's not bad. Last week, I got rid of Ndai. I got rid of Woltemade. And I got rid of Gabrielle. I brought in LaCroix for the Palace double up. I brought in Mbumo, and I brought in Thiago. I don't think it was a horrible idea to get rid of Woltemade, although I was very lucky because they played really well. I might keep Mateta through Burnley in 14 and then do him as a swap back to Woltemade, but the overarching reason I wanted to do that was to set myself up to play aggressively for these next couple weeks until we get the AFCON transfers. I almost want to make like a transfer a week because I feel like I have a lot of the bones of what a good team would constitute over that period. And I just need to attack specific guys. And I think I netted a positive 13 points for those transfers. So at least in isolation, they were nice.
What do you have in the bank right now? Sorry. Okay.
I have 0.4 in the bank right now, but I still have Saka. So if I take him down for literally anybody else, it goes crazy.
You have 1 free?
I have 1 free. What I am not sure about quite yet is if I look at picking a team, the fixtures on paper are kind of ass. So, like, I could play Thiago versus Burnley, but then I got Newcastle, Arsenal, Man United on the bench that's still having me play a pretty big triple up in the same game. Chelsea, Forest, Spurs, Chelsea. So it's not great. With only 1 transfer, it doesn't leave me a lot of purchasing power. The guys I'd like to get rid of semi-quickly are Tarkowski because his fixtures aren't amazing in the next couple. Saka because he's too expensive, as previously discussed, and I think I would just toss some of that into my backline. I would really like to get back into a Arsenal defender. So that's kind of where my head's at on like general things I'd like to do over the next couple weeks. Then it hit me, though, that maybe instead of doing any of that, I should free hit next week because I still have that. So I still have the triple captain. I have the free hit. And as a quick pro-con list, I think a lot of people are looking at free hitting this week. But the alternative is a triple captain on Holland against Leeds, and you don't know what's going to happen in a couple weeks. If I don't do it this week, I could do Sunderland, I think, in 15, which is okay, or West Ham in 17. But West Ham are kind of turning it around, so a little bit of mixed opinions there. And I did create a free hit draft just so we could look to see what that looks like, and this is kind of where I ended up. And it's actually pretty solid. So I would probably start a team of like Keller against Burnley. I have 2 Villa defenders in there right now against Wolves because Wolves have been awful, and while Villa haven't been functioning very offensively, their defensive numbers have actually been pretty solid. Sunderland against Senesi. Flip that. Senesi against Sunderland. Try to get that Brentford triple up with Keller, Collins, Thiago. And it ends up not shaping out to be an entirely bad team. I don't know if Ndai is permanent. He was just kind of like slotting guys in at that point. And Sarr really hasn't been doing much for Crystal Palace. On paper, this is much better. It's the one reservation I have about this is that this is a lot of guys who perform intermittently. And I'm not sure how strong it is aside from just reading the best fixtures.
I think it's super interesting because you do have a lot of those guys that are like, yeah, I've seen his name pop up every 5 weeks, and that's solid. But I'm surprised to see Foden in here. And I think you called out, I'm not in love with Sarr personally, but I have been that way. So take him or leave him in my mind. And then Die against Newcastle definitely doesn't feel like those 2 guys feel like off the vibe of the rest of the team, where you're trying to read fixtures and you just picked a Newcastle and a Man United. So I would play around with that midfield a little bit. I'm also surprised just from how you've been talking about your back line right there. Like, I totally get it from what you said, and attacking Wolves makes a lot of sense. But it's not going big at the back.
Well, so like ultimately that's kind of, I agree with everything you just said. It's like this team is not permanent. I mostly just picked a lot of these guys to illustrate what some of the fixtures were.
Right.
But yeah, it's not like, it's a good on paper free hit, but it's not like the craziest upside week,
I think to Sharp's point with calling out the Foden pick, I don't want to give you, like, this is just my opinion, but I would maybe even think about the City triple up, but have it just be Holland, Dubravka, or not Dubravka, what's his name? Donnarumma, and maybe O'Reilly or something, but just like pick 3 players. Because I think what the free hit allows you for with both City and Liverpool, who both have great fixtures this week, is a better understanding of who's going to start for one given week as opposed to like in the long term. So I would also maybe look at, I know they've been bad, but Bournemouth just put 4 XG up against West Ham. Like, I love that you're doing a Holland Salah draft. I think that's great. And I would maybe try to double down on that. And instead of a Foden, do like a Gakpo or something, and then load up on City defense, maybe.
No, I don't disagree. I think that there's a very likely path of City versus Leeds is probably one of the better games. A City triple up, I think, is going to exist in this team in some form. Just got to nail down who the right guys are.
Yeah.
I actually don't even know if Salah is necessary in this draft. Like, maybe I could hedge some bets, and if I just keep Salah out of there, I know West Ham have looked a little bit better, but if I get rid of him, maybe I can just cover some of the more popularly owned picks in my own free hit team, and then just capitalize on the upside of having a bunch of differentials I will never want again. So it's something I'm gonna have to tinker around with for most of the season, God no, just most of the evening and upcoming this week, and just see what happens. But I think the other point with the free hit that worries me is I talked about wanting to play aggressively. I would not accrue another transfer this week, so it would almost bring my transfer plans like 2 weeks behind. Because if I go back to the team that I had, it was a pretty solid team, but I think the dynamic of those teams, as we've discussed, is going to shift in the next couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that if it's necessarily worth it, right? Like, so it didn't add. If I come in. So it's 13, that'll be 15 with 1 transfer because I'll free hit in 14 and not accrue another one. it still leaves me a lot of holes to solve, because then I still have a Saka that I haven't solved. I still have a Tarkowski who at least will be playing Forest by then. But I will have some challenging fixtures from some of my more star guys, and not as like much of the guys who will be in form for those weeks. So I'll be putting myself a week behind by free hitting, and I just have to decide if the free hit in isolation is better than what I'm going to gain by fielding a stronger team for the next 2 weeks.
Well,
That's the question.
I think the other thing to consider is you're running out of time to use it, right? Like 19, you're going to get 5 transfers, and 16, theoretically, you should be pretty okay. Is there another week that you would do it?
Yeah, I've heard some rumors of 17 is another good week to do that. It's hard for me to envision what that would look like, because we'd be getting all of those AFCON transfers. So it's very, one of the other things that's pushing me towards this week is like I have 2 more destinations to drop a triple captain on Holland. And I'm not sure I have as crystal clear of a path to another free hit. So it might just make more sense to do this now.
So I feel like if you're doing it this week, the general thought process is, okay, Arsenal that are highly owned and that you have 2 of, obviously, are playing a little bit tougher of a fixture in Chelsea. So I am going to, like what you showed us, you had no Arsenal at all. And I think it's tricky because it's hard for me to back against Arsenal, but I will say I think looking at the next few fixtures, Arsenal have Chelsea, Brentford, Villa, Wolves, and Everton. So let's say you free hit in 16, they play Wolves, or in 17, they play Everton. You're going to want Arsenal players in both those weeks. All of that to say, if there was a week to take on Arsenal, I don't know for sure if that's the play, but if there was a week to take on Arsenal, it would be this week. So I get it from that perspective of, okay, what does the meta look like this week? Most people are going to have seen that Eze just scored a hat trick. They're going to have a Saka. They're going to have double Arsenal defense or what have you. And this gives you a real opportunity to go against the crowd. I like that. And that's why I was saying, if anything, I would invest more heavily in City and Liverpool, just because those are teams that people don't have a ton of outside of Holland and whoever else. I like 13. And I think Holland triple cap, Leeds versus West Ham, I think you could pick either one of those and they'd be good. So I don't think saving it is the end of the world. Obviously, the only thing you open yourself up to is if he were to get injured or something. But
yeah, if he gets injured, that's gonna be really tough. That would ideally not happen. But there's still Sunderland. Also, this game would just become so fucking boring if Haaland gets injured and Salah still sucks. We're all gonna have
so much unlimited money,
and we're all just gonna be rotating the same 6.5 million midfielders through our teams, and it's gonna be the most boring season of all time. But yeah, I mean, Leeds is the best one remaining on paper to use it, but there's still some very viable options.
I think West Ham
or
viable
Sunderland
as well. Yeah,
Sunderland too. It's kind of a bummer that Sunderland's not in 17, because if they were, and they're going to get hit hard by AFCON, that would be nice. But no point of talking about it. It's not happening. So,
but I think Sharp's thought process of trying to get it out of the way before AFCON, I generally agree with, just because everybody's going to be so transfer rich. So
nope, I agree. I think that I have a clear path to do it now. I think that the stars have seemed to aligned to do it. I'm just gonna have to assess the risk of who am I not able to get in future weeks because I'm now a transfer behind. Is that going to force me into a situation where I have to burn all of my AFCON transfers immediately? And how important is triple captain Holland, which we've established isn't crazy important. So it's probably right now, if I had to say it, I'd say it's 90-10 that I do it. And I'm just going to have to fuck around with it all week.
I hear you though on the when I was looking at your team and you were asking transfer plans, I was like, oh yeah, just wait a week, downgrade Saka, upgrade one of your defense. That's easy. But yeah, now it puts you 2 weeks behind that. I will say in that sense, not having Saka isn't a liability. It's not ideal long-term structure, but if that's the cost, I don't think that's
and it's almost never worth a sideways move, right? Doing Saka to Eze is only valuable in my mind, or Saka to Rice only valuable in my mind if I'm capitalizing somewhere else.
Right.
I also thought about this last week, so I intentionally brought in a LaCroix to pair with a Richards for the double up against Wolves, free hit, double up against Burnley. and then I'd like to get out of one of those Palace defenders. So I think that I planned it over the next couple weeks to where this is the week that makes the most sense. I don't think I'm going to go back on it.
I'm with it.
It's how long, really the biggest question is honestly, how long do I want to continue to bet against Arsenal by not having 2 Arsenal defenders?
Yeah. And that's why I'm saying it is almost painful coming out of my mouth to say bet against Arsenal. But again, if you were going to do it, this is on paper probably the week too.
Right. And, we've seen from your guys' free hits that paper doesn't always pan out, but you got to go with the information you have, right?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, that'll be interesting if we come back. You've done that free hit, and then we get an Arsenal clean, and both of us are on double Arsenal defense, or the other way around. We're both on double Arsenal defense and are looking for even taller rooftops. But so is life.
Well, and I got really bailed out by the fact that Richarlison just remembered for a single week that he could play soccer. But it very easily could have been in a hole from that this week. They're just so good defensively.
Yeah. The more we do this season, the less I realize I know.
Mm-hmm.
Just it, never ceases to amaze me.
Join the club. Just admit you know nothing right away.
Right. And then then life gets easy.
Yeah.
All right. That is the 3 Wanks FPL podcast. Go Colts. And we will see you guys next week. Cheers.
Peace.
Peace.